everyone, Cannibal here. Let's talk today about migration. So you want to move to a new kingdom, but you want to pick a good one because you might live there for a little while. You've got all your guildmates ready to go. You're bored with the kingdom you're in right now, and you're just itching to get out of there. So here's some of the things that I've learned about migration and some tips to give you for picking a good kingdom. Ironically, with this migration event that's going on now, this new event from IGG, it's thrown a little wrench in the works for migration. Migration now can happen a lot faster, a lot easier in some ways, and in other ways it's harder because you've got big max Titan guilds that can just move around at will, and so it's made things a little bit harder too. So. The first thing to note is that when you're choosing a new kingdom, your new kingdom can be safe, exciting, or cheap, but you got to pick two. Because usually, if you pick a safe kingdom, it's not going to be exciting. It will either be dead or it'll be expensive to go to. Now, of course, that's changing a bit with these migration events. But if you pick one that's exciting, usually it's not safe. So you got to choose wisely. And what might be good for your traps in your guild might not be so great for your rally leads if you're in the wrong kingdom. They kind of have conflicting needs in some ways. So balancing act is what's needed, and I'm going to help you navigate through that today. Right. So let's take a look. The first thing that you have to realize when you're uh, when you're picking a kingdom is that in the end, nobody's ever going to be completely satisfied. I just mentioned that you might have traps in your guild, you might have people that are hungry for rallies, and there's a conflict there between the kind of kingdoms that a trap really likes and the kind of kingdoms that rally leads like with all the fresh meat in the kingdom, and finding one that's kind of a good balance is really difficult. So generally nobody's going to be happy. You'll be doing all this research and you're going to end up with some bonehead at the end is going to say, "Oh, this kingdom's boring," or "This kingdom's too scary." So you're not going to win. So first thing you need to do before you decide what kingdom to go to is kind of what level of risk do you want to take? What's the risk profile for your guild? How developed is your guild? How are they ready for a dangerous kingdom? Or are they do they need a little less danger in their lives so they can keep building up their accounts? So a few things you need to ask yourself is are your guild members prepared to go into fury around max titans? Are they comfortable around a situation where there's a guy with a bunch of 15 Astra champ gear sitting next to them, looking at them like they might rally them if they go into fury? So you gotta ask yourself if your guild is ready for that kind of pressure. And have they built up their comps to be able to take a couple rallies from one of those big guys if they should go into Fury? Do you have some members that are just careless, like always forgetting to change out of their hunting gear and falling asleep and all of that? These guys for a war guild can be incredibly challenging because if you have a few of these guys that are careless and they're careless often, uh, they will invite other guilds to go and try you more. So if another guild smells carelessness, they know that carelessness kills in this game. So my suggestion is if somebody's just chronically careless, that they're just always getting themselves burned down because they're not paying enough attention, get rid of them. I think that's the best advice I can give you. Right. Are your comms strong? I mean, sometimes people make mistakes. It's fine occasionally. I'm not talking about the chronic offenders, but the people that, honestly, from time to time, everybody makes a mistake. Everybody forgets their shield, or forgets to change their gear, or forgets their anti-scout, whatever. It always happens. So in those cases, is your offline communication strong? Can you call up people and say, hey, wake up and put your shield on? uh, Having that sort of communication in those cases is really important. And this tells you whether or not you can survive in a dangerous kingdom. So these are the things you need to think about before you decide what kingdom to go to. Okay, then there's timing. How do you want to? When do you want to go? A few considerations here. One is if you use a migration event, you can pretty much anybody can go for the maximum of one scroll and one relocator anywhere that's an open kingdom to them. So this makes life really easy for those big accounts, the big I call them fat vegetarians that that have way too many troops and probably don't have enough migration scrolls to normally move around, but they can move around. So if you got a few of those guys who are in your guild, and they've been holding you back and moving around, well, the migration events are perfect for that. So I think you should consider whether or not you want to be moving around during the migration events because it's so cheap, and it means you don't have to save up as many scrolls. So the expedition event can help you move RSS. So a lot of times what holds you back from migration is all of the guys that are doing these a huge amount of farming to try to build up their accounts. And so they have all of this RSS sitting outside their bags, and they're very reluctant to move while they have all of that RSS collected. And sometimes you'll migrate, and then there'll be like 10 people back in the old kingdom, and you're, why aren't you here? And it's because they have all the RSS that they haven't been able to sell or use yet, and so they're useless to you in another kingdom somewhere. So the expedition event can solve for that because you can move that RSS within expedition, and so they don't have that excuse anymore. So they should be moving with you as soon as you migrate. Everybody comes along at the same time because they're able to move all of their RSS. Uh, Another consideration is, well, you might want to do the migration right just before a WoW in another kingdom so that you can kind of drop in and surprise them and say, hey, we're here to fight. Or you might want to do it at the very last day of the migration event, at the last hour of the migration event. So everybody is thinking, oh, okay, our kingdom, it's ours again, and it's safe, and all that, and then you drop in at the end, and hey, we're here to fight. So I think that's another consideration. Uh, so yeah, again, these the migration events, if you're not really aware of them, they're coming up pretty often these days. Every seems like every couple of weeks, these migration deals are active, and you can move around your Chalice district for the cost of a relocator. What that means then is that even if you want to go to a kingdom that's not in your district, you just go find a cheap kingdom somewhere in another district where it only costs everybody in the guild one scroll, and then you use one relocator once you're in that new district. So basically means you can move around anywhere in Lords Mobile for the cost of maximum one migration scroll and one relocator. So some cost considerations: if you're not doing it during a migration event, then the scroll counts can make it difficult if you've got a lot of really big accounts. We started putting a cap on the size of the accounts we were letting into the guild at one point because we found that if that unless you're a rally lead and really need to have a massive account, um, if you were just there to trap or help fill or something like that, having these big massive accounts was not helpful because we couldn't just move around as much as we'd like. Now with the migration events, that makes it a little bit easier. Uh, so, and then moving farms, as I mentioned before, if you're farming like crazy, and everybody's got an alt where they're farming, or a few alts that they're farming, moving those accounts at the same time, that can be a bit challenging and sometimes costly on scrolls and all that. And then one of the things that you used to be able to do, now it's a little bit harder with the migration events, is you would look at you'd go to a semi-expensive kind of kingdom, knowing that you would discourage the big the big Titan guilds from raiding your kingdom because it would be too costly for them. So if it had like a low top 50, then you knew that it was going to cost all of their members, 30, 40 scrolls in order to come and raid your kingdom, and so that might fall into the choice. But now with these migration events, it's not really a thing. So you can never guarantee that you're not going to have a max Titan account and guild come in and raid you. Uh, so yeah, I mean, if you're migrating outside of the migration event, the scrolls are still a consideration. But people are now saving up scrolls a lot easier because of the migration event. So even if you use scrolls, you can save them up easier because some migrations might only cost you one scroll now, and because of the events, and then that'll help you save up more in between. So if you want to move to a kingdom where you want to fight in WoW, so a few things there. One, look who's owning the kingdom currently. Look at do they have uh, strong rally leads in that guild, or do they hold all the forts, all that sort of stuff. So look at who's currently there. Look at their Dragon Arena cups. That's a good indication and compare them to yours. If you've got a similar sort of level of cups, that's a good indication of whether or not you can be competitive against them in a WoW fight. So something that you want to look at. Uh, but you're gonna before you do your final migration, you're gonna want to send a scout because you're gonna want to look at the kingdom news. You're gonna want to see who's active. You're also gonna want to see uh, whether or not they're bringing in mercenaries to fight WoW and all of that because you might get tricked because you'll look at the cups for a particular guild and they might look really low, and then you realize that for every WoW that guild's got somebody that they're bringing in, a mercenary to fight the WoW for them. So they would be totally beatable if they didn't bring in their mercenary, but they do. So you got to check that, and you can see that on the Kingdom News. So when you go, you send your scout, you look on the Kingdom News, you look at the rally leads that were rallying the forts and the base, and check and see if they're still in that kingdom. And a lot of times you'll check, and they'll be in another guild in another kingdom, and they're a Max Titan or something that just it says mercenary all over it, right? Uh, so the other thing that you want to look at is when you're looking at the guilds that you might be fighting in WoW in the other kingdom, are they part of a family? So, and it might not be completely obvious unless you really look closely. Sometimes they won't say specifically that they're part of a family, so you're going to have to look a little more closely. But most of the time it'll say it'll on their board it'll say that they're part of a family, and what that generally means is that if they are part of a family, the likelihood that one of the family members could fly in and help them with WoW is high. So take that into consideration as well. So here's a few research tips that I follow when I'm looking at different kingdoms to migrate to. One of the things that I use is this Lords Mobile cartograph. It's you can just go to that website, and they'll list all of the kingdoms. They're scanning all of these kingdoms and determining population and they have a map with where all the guilds are and all this sort of stuff. So it's really helpful when evaluating these kingdoms. They also have an app that they sell or where you can subscribe to their data in Telegram or Discord or something like that. And so it's good information. They'll also, if you're a data geek like I am, you can subscribe and get the data feed, so you can actually process the data, throw it into spreadsheets, and look at a bunch of key information about different kingdoms. So that might help you in choosing where you want to go. Um, it's got limitations and all of that. One thing that you need to look at when you're using something like this is check out that abandonment rate. So you'll see one of the things that they do is figure out which castles are active and which ones seem to be abandoned. And we all know this as if we've played Lords Mobile very much at all, that some kingdoms are just full of a bunch of dead castles. So you look at the population and then look at the abandonment rate, and sometimes it'll be misleading because you might have like a 1600, which is sort of a reasonable size these days, 1600 castle population, but sometimes the abandonment rate's like 5%. Sometimes the abandonment rate's like 25%. So that can make a huge difference in what the actual population size is in any kingdom that you might be looking at to go to. So here's one of the other things that you got to watch out for when you're evaluating kingdom. As I mentioned, the Lords Mobile cartograph, and I'm not endorsing them. It's not an advertisement for them, but it's useful. But you can see here on the map, uh, this thing is there's 2,500 population, which is a good size kingdom in Lords Mobile, and but you see all these very square looking hives everywhere, very uniform. That's pretty abnormal looking for for uh, for Lords Mobile. You generally don't have something looking quite that neat. So this is and there's a reason for that. In this kingdom, and I just pulled this up yesterday. I was just playing around and looking at who's where. This kingdom has a ton of bots, a ton of farm bots. So this is one of those hives, and you can see they're just all farm bots. One of the other hives, same thing, just a ton of farm bots, and here. So how much of that population, it was a good sized population, but how much of it is actually farm bots? So look at that before you move. Another indication that I use in evaluating a kingdom is whether or not the forts are split. So, do different guilds own different forts? So that means that no one guild was dominant. There was a fight between one and the other, and some of them they got split. So that's a good sign. That means that there's no just massive, overwhelming um, dominant guild in that kingdom. So maybe that will make life more interesting when you get into fighting WoW. So another thing to look at when I'm evaluating a kingdom and the population looks good and it looks like there's good WoW dynamics and all that sort of stuff, is I will go around the center of the map and I will look to see if there are smaller, smallish type castles holding prisoners. Ideally, I mean, you'd have some like 700, 800, 900 million might castles holding prisoners. But even if it's under like 1.1 billion, I count that as an interesting sign, because that means that, well, they're either confident enough in their comp to hold those prisoners, or they're overconfident and they're going to get cannibalized. So either way, it makes for an interesting kind of dynamic in a kingdom. I like to see it. I like to see castles that feel comfortable enough to be holding prisoners when they're not a 2 billion might castle or something like that. Uh, so yeah, as I said before, when you get the scout into that kingdom that you're looking at, look at the kingdom news, find out who's actually fighting. Then you can see who you might have to go up against and all of that. So that's a essential part of final determination of where you're going to move to is looking at that kingdom news. And I mentioned the DA Cup, so look at who's holding the forts. Look at the Dragon Arena Cups, and that'll give you an indication of whether or not you can be competitive against them. So the other thing you want to do is look at the guild members list. So you find the dominant guilds in a kingdom. Spend a little bit of time going through their member lists, because the overall stats, like what's the overall might for a particular guild, maybe it's 130 billion might, maybe it's a 160 billion might guild, and those are big, but that doesn't tell you the whole picture. So for instance, this guild, we just came across them a few days ago. So 137 billion might guild. That's a reasonable size, but it's not like it's not super scary size. It's not 160, 170, 180. But then when you start looking at the individual, you start looking at things like, okay, well, there's the DA cups are 12,371. That's pretty strong. That's a strong DA cups. Uh, and then you start looking at the members list. And this is why I say you got to look at the members list, because then you start looking at, you start seeing all of them look like this. They're just like all max titans, and not all of them, but many, many. Like they probably have a dozen rally leads that look like this that could just melt you by porting next to you. So yeah, it's you want to look at the member list and make sure that you understand what they look like. Right. The other thing is, once you figure out who the rivals are going to be in the kingdom you want to go to, make sure you understand their time zones if you can. So are they a guild based in Asia, in South America, in North America? Where are they, and where are they in relation to your members? So I always have this website up in a tab on one of my browsers, because at any given time you say, oh, hey, I want to rally this guy, and what time is it in Tokyo right now? And oh, it's too early. Wait another couple hours. If he still hasn't shielded, we'll rally him. So having this sort of thing up is important. But overall, knowing the dynamics of is the rival guilds, is the main guilds that you're going to come up against, is there enough overlap and also enough downtime between you in terms of time zones, so that you can have some strategy for when they're offline. Uh, Looking at the average kills, so it's interesting, when you're looking at a new kingdom to move to, sometimes the kingdom is full of guilds that have kind of an average looking. The bigger players have good number of kills, like the one we're in now. That list looks pretty standard to me. A lot of them over a billion kills, in particular in the top 20. They're all above a billion kills. But then sometimes you'll run into a kingdom where uh, it will look strong and the guilds will look strong, but then you realize that the kills in the top 50 are like 300 million, 500 million. That's kind of, then you're like, oh, this kingdom is full of noobs. So, so it's a good indication about how developed some of these kingdoms are, and sometimes you get like a bunch of guilds that just flew in there from from a recently opened guild somewhere else, opened kingdom somewhere else, and moved in, and yeah, you can teach them a thing or two. Right. So, as I said before, last step in migrating is sending out the scouts. You always want to send out a scout first. You want to live in that kingdom for at least several hours, maybe a day, watching the news, reading the old news, watching, determining who has war bots. Because if there's you can pretty much assume that every kingdom has a war bot these days, but if there's too many of them, then and you don't have one, you're going to be struggling to get any kills because the shield will go down 5 seconds later. Four guilds will be there, all setting rallies on the guy. So you want to know that sort of thing, and that's easier to do when you're in the kingdom and watching it. So look at the active war guilds from the news. Look at the top 50s. All these things you can do when you're actually in the kingdom with the scout. And then also look at the Colosseum. Look and see who's in the top 10, 20 for the Colosseum. And then one thing to know is that even if you've done everything that I've just talked about and you've done your best, it can all still go wrong and does frequently. The number of times that I thought that I've chosen the perfect kingdom to go to, and we get there, and a day later, five massive war guilds show up competing with us. It just happens a lot, and so you can never guarantee it. Sometimes you get lucky though, and you find a great kingdom, and you get several weeks of joyous burning, and but sometimes you don't. So things that can go wrong, you know, all the events, all these out of kingdom events can give you a false impression. So the chaos arena, the expedition, uh, these sort of events take everybody out of the kingdom for a while, and so that when you're trying to do your research on that kingdom, it looks like everybody's gone because they are. They're either in Chaos Arena or they're in Expedition or something like that, and so you don't really know who's living there for certain, and that can make things difficult for you. Um, and the migration events now can make things change very quickly. So you might have a great migration, have a few days of really wonderful war activities, and then a migration event starts, and then immediately you get raided by several other guilds, and the fun is over because they all are bringing their war bots with them and all of that. So that can make things frustrating. Um, and the laggards, your people in your guild, if they're hoarding their RSS, or they've got or they're just not active enough and they're staying behind, they can really ruin your move. So if you got a bunch of guys who've just gotten addicted to RSS, and and a bunch of them don't move at the same time that you've migrated, then they're useless to you over there. You're looking at them going, hey, I need you to fill this rally, and they're over there going, well, I got all this RSS sitting outside my bag, and you go, oh well, the, this is making life difficult. So um, that can really cause you some pain and suffering. And then just the pure number of events uh, the calendar is just so packed now with all of these events going on from IGG. So that can make that can make choosing when to migrate and all of that more difficult. But look, if you end up somewhere and you don't like it, it could change quickly because a migration event's probably just around the corner, or somebody could just fly in anyway. So stick around a bit and watch it and be patient. Sometimes patience is good in these cases. You can wait a few weeks and a guild can get bored and move out, leaving the kingdom to you, and it'll be fun again. Other times you might have to leave yourself just to find a better spot. But good luck to you. This is always a challenge, and but I wish you luck. And if you have your own migration tips and tricks and all that, please post them in the comments. Also, please subscribe to us and help encourage us to make more videos like this if you like it. And that's it for me. Cannibal out.